Hi there, welcome. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to the Philanthropic Planner program. This is number 2,131 programs. No, it just seems that. I think we're at 102 or something like that, but I thought I'd make it sound like a ridiculous number because it's a ridiculous program. We're talking about philanthropy, the boring subject of what's most important in our country is that third leg of the stool, philanthropy, giving back to the community, to the state, to the country, to the world, really. So a lot of people ask me, Bob, what are you doing this crazy thing for? We say, it's fun. Really, Bob, really? No, seriously, I get people ask and say, why do you put on that program? Is it just for the rich? No, you don't have to be mega wealthy to be a philanthropist. It could be a $25 check to your favorite charity. It's finding the capacity to do something. We get people that ask us, Bob, I'd like to do more if I could. I'd like to do more if I knew how. So we found out a number of years ago, 9.5, almost 10 years now, where we addressed the subjects like that I would like to do more if I could. Well, that's a philanthropic expression. That's one of saying, hey, I'd like to give if I could. Well, that's capacity. Do I have the capacity to give today, cash, out of my pocket, out of my checkbook, out of my savings, and not jeopardize myself for the rest of my life? I don't know how long I'm going to live. And can I afford, in other words, do I have the capacity to make that gift? That's immediate, that's short term, 1 to 3 years, that's out here where I may need monies and cash and savings for healthcare reasons or nursing home or something like that. So it's not just a snapshot today, do I have the capacity? And if we're only talking about $25 or $100 or something like that, that's usually one of cash flow, and that inflow, that income is replaced on a month-to-month, quarterly basis, annual basis. So in that case, short term, I have the capacity, but we need, if we're talking about larger gifts, we have to talk about our capacity in the future. And that gets into other plan giving as a part of philanthropy. That may be that, hey, I don't know the future. I don't have a crystal ball. No one does. But that may lead us to that other philanthropic step of redoing, renewing, updating my will. That at my passing, what, if anything, do I want to pass on to charity? And that's a lot of planning because we have old wills. It may have been at a time when the state law or federal law was different. It may be a difference in our life stages as to now we are empty nesters, if there are some empty nesters out there. But life changes, life stages change. So we need to go back and look at our wills, our bequests, charitable bequests in our will legal documents. Now remember also, as you're doing that, one of the most important, if not, I'll just say one of the most important thing is a durable power of attorney, health proxies, and so on that are kind of companions with updating and renewing my will. But the other part is I would like to do more if I knew how. And that leads us to the other part of why making this type of presentation periodically on just sharing a different vocabulary, sharing a number of gift-giving tools. And our last program, our most recent program, was about charitable gift annuities. And in that particular program, we talked about laddering charitable gift annuities over a 5-year period. And we talked about what do I fund that with? Well, in both of those cases, we were talking about ironically, Cigna in our backyard, Cigna stock that had appreciated. In one case, it was from gifts of a retired Cigna employee, and he gifted to his son. And this Cigna stock since 1982, I believe it was, from Connecticut General. And that has grown and grown and grown and grown with very little, almost no dividend. So here I have this large, what has grown into a very large asset with very little income, almost no income. So in laddering that charitable gift annuity, we talked about every year for 5 years, putting 100, 200 shares of that Cigna stock. In the other case, a widow, she also had accumulated Cigna stock, and it had grown incredibly. Okay, so in that case, she had already had 3 charitable gift annuities in previous years. She was familiar with the tax deduction and the fact that she could get more lifetime guaranteed income, and part of that income was excluded from taxes. So if she got $1,000 in income, over $650 of that was not taxed. So when we talk about charitable giving tools, charitable gift annuity is one example. I received a note from someone that tuned in and said, you didn't say anything about a deferred charitable gift annuity approach. In other words, I don't want to trigger income yet, okay, so I can defer that, but still have the charitable gift annuity agreement, okay, and I want to trigger that income at some future triggering event or age or date or whatever. But in the meantime, I have set aside a part of my planning that I wanted the remainder interest at my passing, that deferred charitable gift annuity, or when I start receiving it, that the remainder interest will go to my favorite charity at that point. So anyway, talking about tools, charitable remainder, unit trusts, lead trusts, that type of thing. There are a lot of giving tools. Pooled income, we went through a cycle where it was unattractive, and now we're getting back into some people looking at pooled income funds. So that's part of the reason of talking about. The other is sharing what other people do, your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, or what have you in some other state. What are they doing? What are their thoughts about it? Okay. On our side, we kind of are attuned to this and have been since back in the 80s to philanthropy in general. I've been very active with the National Charitable Planning Partners. It used to be back then, we were talking about a national organization, and most of them, I would say 85, 90% or more, are development people with charities. But we have advisors in that group also. And the charitable advisor designation that the CAP, we give out scholarships from the Advisor in Philanthropy Foundation, and we're trying to grow this critical mass, if you will, on a smaller scale, but to have more advisors that are certified with that designation of CAP, a Charter Advisor in Philanthropy. So on this end of the world, I've been connected in the philanthropic area, and I get the Chronicle of Philanthropy, which I am rude enough to start our program each time, and I have the current issue. This particular issue is interesting because we talk about immigration, and unless you live in a cave recently, immigration is a current topic politically and otherwise. So this caught my eye, and it talks about the significant contribution by people who were not born in this country but are citizens now. They've become very successful, and they are contributing greatly to philanthropy. And we have some examples of that I thought I'd share with you. But the other thing is, in addition to determining capacity and getting away from the legalese, just like medicine or law or what have you, we get into terminology and acronyms that okay, wait a minute, what did you just say? Give it to me in plain English. So if we can simplify the complexity a little bit of talking about how I can give simply, automatic, or whatever it is, on a monthly basis, or again, trying to simplify the complexity. Let me interject something here. I wasn't planning to talk about this, but in my next program, I want to talk about it also. Please, please, please be aware that we are in a world of hacking into our cyber tools. And we had just this week 2 examples of people that talked about, hey, it looks like my email has been hacked. One gentleman said he received over 800 emails in a 15 or 20 minute period. And he thought, whoa, this is not only strange, but a little scary. And found out that one of the reasons, if not the reason, of not receiving mail for 3 or 4 days was that someone called the post office and stopped the delivery of the mail, which was not requested. We just have to be diligent, and we have to be on guard for this super high-tech thing, which is beautiful in one sense and very threatening and scary in another sense. So be careful. In the philanthropic area, we have solicitation by bogus groups. So when you get these solicitations by phone, by email, by correspondence in the mail, be careful who you're giving to and how much you're giving. I'm afraid to say that this is a danger to a lot of seniors. And when we talk about having capacity in another sense, do I have the wherewithal to make financial decisions? That's when we depend on a member of the family or a friend with a power of attorney, a durable power of attorney. And we've seen examples of a well-meaning donor making repetitive gifts. And did you make this gift of $100? Yes. But we see that you've made the same gift 5 or 6 months in a row. Did you mean to give $900 to this charity or just $100? Well, send in the $100, boom, the charity sends out not just a thank you, but it's an additional solicitation. That's fine. I'm not questioning that. It's just, did the donor really intend to give those multiple gifts to the same charity? So be careful there in a lot of ways. When we talk about giving, we know that the family profile or the individual profile may be very concerned about legacy to family and protecting the inheritance that will be passed on. So again, we have to weigh these things and say, do I have not just the wherewithal, I do have the wherewithal, but do I want to gift too much and jeopardize my legacy to family? We have some not too good examples, I'm afraid, not happy endings, but it goes along with the solicitation and not knowing how much I'm giving. We have examples in recent years where a lot of money, the family finds out later that mom or dad gave out a lot more than what they thought they were. And we have some people who take advantage of relationships. We have abuse by maybe a caregiver or what have you. So be diligent, know what you have, know what you can give, and don't let all these crazy, scaring stories take you away from your philanthropic intent in giving. We need philanthropy in our communities. And the pressure by charities is they're all chasing the same dollar. That if you're like me, you get a lot of solicitations from literally hundreds of charities. So every one of these charities has cash flow crunches. They have a need for operations. They have a need because maybe some government grants and other sources are shrinking. They're limited in what they're receiving. So there's an incredible need to not only promote philanthropy, but give you the ways, the means, and the tools to do that. Let's visit a little bit more about family gifting. In addition to philanthropic and donating to charity, donating to family and to individuals, okay, we're allowed $15,000 a year per person in personal giving. So that needs to be a part of your planning. If we have a recent client who gifts a great deal, both in charity and to family. So we have to keep track of that giving. And when we come to the end of the year, we're taping this in the fourth quarter of the year, we get into tax planning, and that becomes an integral part of our overall gift planning also. So let me get back to this chronicle and immigration. This particular issue is interesting because it points and highlights a number of immigrants that are now citizens of the country who have given a great deal of money. One, for example, is a Cuban, Mike Fernandez, excuse me. And Mike, when he was a young man, 12 years old, I believe, his family was literally thrown out of Cuba. His father had father was an entrepreneur and had several shops and restaurants and so on. Well, the officials came in armed with Russian-type submachine guns and said, "You got to get out." So the family, Miguel and his mother and father and sister, flew to Mexico, and from Mexico came to the United States. Mike Fernandez is in Coral Gables, Florida, and has gifted an incredible amount of money. He's very successful. Hedge fund, private equity, he has done extremely well. Well, he's gifted over $140 million to various charities, one primarily to education, thinking that education is important and beneficial to everyone. If we have an educated public or a population, that benefits everybody. So the story of Mike, I think was very interesting because the Cuban population in Florida is significant, and we find that Latinos, Cubans certainly are giving people. They have big hearts and they want to give back to the community. And several quotes here is, "We're a part of this country. We're a part of the mosaic, the fabric of the country." So when we talk about immigration, this hits home here as far as our history. Our history is deep in immigrants and coming to this country. Over the last 20 or 30 years, we've averaged between 1.1 or 1 million and 1.3 million immigrants coming to the country legally. And those people may have come here initially for schooling at lower level or colleges or what have you. I had the very nice experience just this week visiting with the head of Master School here locally. And Ray is on his way to China as we speak right now, and recruiting foreign Chinese to Master School. We find that several people in this article in the Chronicle are Chinese American who came here, and many of them came here on student visas and so on, and stayed here. Professionals, educated, very successful, many of them, and they are giving back in a big way. One of those is I made a note in preparing for this that a lot of philanthropists, big giants in philanthropy, I never heard of their names. I mean, we see in Gates and some of these people in the tech area, we see their names. That's out there in the public. But you take somebody like Cyrus Tang. I never heard of Cyrus Tang. He came to the U.S. in 1950 from Hong Kong. Came here to study and stayed here. Excuse me. And here's a gentleman that has given tons of millions of dollars. He recently died at age 88. Excuse me again. But Chinese Americans have done a great deal. And in the last 10 years, for example, I beg your pardon, in the last 8 years, Chinese American foundations have quadrupled. There are over 1,300 Chinese American created foundations. Another example is Indian Americans, and we have a couple, both from India, Ranjan and Chandrika Tandon, both from India. Their big gift 4 years ago was to NYU in New York, and they gave $100 million to NYU's engineering school. The quote in the Chronicle is, "This is our country and our home, so the contributions from people like us and people who have been here for generations are all contributing to the rich mosaic that is the great heritage of this country." Another is an Iranian expatriate, and Neda Nobari, and she came here at age 15, and she and her husband became very wealthy with I think it's BB clothing, and she has gifted a great deal, not just in this country but back in India. So there are examples of how much we've benefited, and this caught my eye as far as the Chronicle was concerned about immigration and it being so topical today. Let me share with you a couple of other things on tools. I think we'll have a program in the future in the tech area. A lot of small charities, it's nice to talk about hundreds of millions, but most charities, 96, 98% of charities are small. Their constituency and the gift giving is small, but it's amazing how much money can be raised with the $25, the $100 gifts that are out there. And we're seeing, I believe it's Amazon, in a gift like a PayPal. Alexa, make a $25 donation to the YMCA. Alexa, and it's that type of thing. So we need to stay abreast of high technology that comes right down to a lower level and saying, hey, we can raise a lot of money in that. On the disaster side, we see GoFundMe or something like that. Well, you can't use that particular tool for a charity, but if this Amazon thing takes off, that may be a way for small charities to really benefit. On Alexa, make a $50 gift to Simsbury Community TV. By the way, it might be nice if the one person watching, if there's more than one person out there watching this particular crazy show, it would be nice to write out a small check to Simsbury Community TV. The TV here in the community is an asset, and they provide a lot of information to people in the community, and we think it's worthwhile. Other areas that we want to talk about, I'm sorry there's no guest today, but we're putting together our next 10 programs, and if you are interested with a nonprofit, or if you're an advisor, we've had attorneys, accountants, insurance professionals. We've had a Catholic priest and a rabbi, over 101 shows or 102 shows. We've had a lot of guests representing a lot of charities. And this program is designed for the individual donor as well as the philanthropic planner advisor. And we just need more philanthropic advisors. And I talk about the designation of CAP. It's critical that we do that. I had a gentleman ask me the other day after watching about 5 or 10 minutes of our last program on charitable gift annuities, saying, why would you recommend taking $250,000 out of your assets under management fee schedule? That's kind of crazy, isn't it? I said, no, that's what the donor intended, very philanthropic in their intent. And that was one tool, and the method of laddering, they were familiar with laddering bonds, laddering CDs, laddering this, laddering that. Why not ladder a charitable gift annuity? So here we are back again after a little hiatus from the Philanthropic Planner Program. We are going to push for another 100 programs. I don't know if I'll last that long, but if you have some questions, get back to us. You can send it to the TV studio here or give us a call at Sage Financial. Thanks again for watching. We'll be back at you next time, and hopefully we'll have a guest for you. Thanks. Have a great one. Happy Thanksgiving. Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.